Greetings! It is now the 54th episode of Depths of Gaming.
Greetings and hello! I am Voice. I will be your Russian accent for today.
Yes. Today we have a couple topics. Various topics, each more strange than the last. Not really, it's bullshit. PC Gamer did a list of all the Battle Royale games so far for 2018.
And there's a lot of them.
There are many. They are many.
Yeah. Just like that demon from the Bible. Legion. They are Legion.
They're Legion.
So yeah, everybody's going on the bandwagon because we had our shooter phase, our first-person shooter phase, we had our third-person shooter phase, we had our cover-based shooter phase. Now we also had the MOBA phase, and now we have the Battle Royale phase.
Oh yeah. So the first we got here is Radical Heights, which is Boss Key's attempt to be relevant after the failure that was Lawbreakers.
They're trying.
They're trying. They really are. And I've Radical Heights, you can play it right now on Steam. It's entertaining for sure. It's a very approachable game. The money you earn in-game through cash and prizes, you can freely deposit it into your game account. And if you find clothes in-game, you can then use your in-game account to unlock it instead of paying premium currency for it. So you can earn all the clothes you want.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting because you have those cosmetic items, right?
Yeah.
And you can actually find them in game, and once you find them in game, you can buy them for the in-game money, just like you said.
Yes.
But you also can buy them without it for real money.
Yes.
Which is interesting. Okay. However, you can also buy all kinds of other stuff with the in-game currency.
There's a bunch of vending machines in game with guns and equipment.
That's what's interesting, because as a game mechanic, you go around the map, you gather money, you have a lot of it. So, and the more you gather, the more risk you take for carrying it around.
Yeah.
Because if you die, you lose it all, right?
You lose about 10% of it.
That's not that much.
No, you keep the lion's share.
Mm-hmm. I thought that you would lose everything. That would make it much more intense.
Well, what they want to avoid is players getting a ton of money at once.
It makes sense.
So, because what would happen is there'd be one player every server that gets $20,000, and suddenly he's able to buy most of the items in the cash shop. It's not economical. So Radical Heights, try it out. There's Mavericks Proving Ground, which is supposedly a 400-man game that we haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm suspecting that it's being forged in the fires of Mount Doom as we speak.
I wonder how much load would servers have to bear if they have to support 400-player shooter co-op. Not just co-op, but free-for-all shooter.
Yeah.
Because what's the record for the most amount of players in a shooter? I believe that
it has 150.
Yeah, it has to belong to one of those Medal of Honor or.
Well, no, there are a handful of games where their gimmick was they had giant server sizes. I just cannot recall what they're named.
Yeah, because MMOs can have like thousands upon thousands, right?
Not on the same map, though.
Yeah, but still, and but shooters require a lot of smoothness, right?
Yeah.
Because you cannot afford a lag on a server this size, especially when when you're trying to be competitive and fair.
Yeah.
So I wonder how they're going to solve that.
Then there's Survive.io, which is the representative of the IO community, because there's fucking millions of these things.
Yeah, the entire community of that builds these can churn out in 48 hours like 60. And everybody wants to have a piece of this.
Oh yeah, everyone wants a piece of this. Everyone. SOS, where a bunch of players are on an island, and Twitch streamers, Twitch viewers are able to interact with the game environment. Not entirely sure how, though. It's only 16 players, so I wasn't very interested. And then there's the Darwin Project.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fun one. You're stuck out in the Canadian wilderness, and you have your shovel, and you can craft bow and arrows. And so you're hunting for leather, you're hunting for wood, and you're gathering equipment so that you can fight other players.
And Twitch streamers will have influence over how the game plays, right?
Yes, because there's an observer that is able to directly change the map. He's able to lock zones and do bonuses and such. What I really want is an observer in the 100-man games. That would be interesting. Dying Light's making a copy. Islands of Nine, which is a first-person science fiction one. It's apparently been in development longer than PUBG, so whatever. And I swear this was a fucking joke. I thought this was an April Fool's joke. I thought it was. I thought it wasn't real. I thought, why would they do something like this? Was Paladins really shitting the bed this hard in usership that they have to do this? They are making a Battlegrounds version of Paladins.
Well, as we say in Poland, the drowning man grasps the razor. So, yeah, when you're desperate enough, you'll do anything to survive.
And so they are basically pulling a Fortnite where they're ripping out their base game and converting it to Battlegrounds.
Mm-hmm. They're trying to survive.
And now, from the land of China... Sorry. Land of China, we have Europa. Which is produced by Tencent, which is the Chinese distributor of PUBG.
Everybody wants to take a stab at PUBG by making their own game. Well, and interesting thing is, when did PUBG released? It was like a year ago?
Yeah.
Year and a half? Something like that, right?
Yeah.
And those games had to be made after that. So all these games have like 6 months, maybe a year of development time.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes.
So
or in the case of Lawbreakers, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, Radical Heights, 5 minutes, because they shit out that game really quick.
Yeah, which tells you how little effort a good studio requires in order to pump out a battle royale game, which is basically all they do is just put up a map, throw random shit on, throw some random weapons, some character models, and they tweak a little bit, and there, boom, you have a game. I believe that. What was it? So some companies just rework their old games to work in battle royale format.
A lot, yeah, people have been doing that. Like, well, that's what Fortnite was. Fortnite was a shitty cooperative tower builder where you fought zombies, and they saw PUBG was making a lot of money, so they copied it, and now they're the king. But enough about our favorite game of all time. Let's talk about how shitty Far Cry 5 is.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's funny. People were talking about Far Cry for the longest time. They're saying, "Oh, Far Cry 5, it's very entertaining, but wow, there are way too many enemies. Like, it's kind of shocking." But all of that has gone away as people started finishing it.
Yeah. Someone didn't like the story.
So, the story of Far Cry 5 is you're a U.S. Marshal sent in with a team to arrest this dude, Seed. And Seed has taken over Montana. He's made a army of male rednecks.
Oh.
And conquered them with a drug called Bliss.
And which one is this occurrence of Bliss as a drug? I think it's like 60th, I feel. Because in fiction, every drug that ever is created, it has to be called Bliss.
Yeah. And so this stupid green, like, pot smoke hazes around their heads when they're like controlled by Bliss. It's very strange. So,
yeah, because now suddenly drugs can let you mind control people.
Well, they can, but not like this. So this is very loosely based on like hoodoo, Hungan,
voodoo. Yeah.
Where they get you fucking high and you're stumbling around.
Oh, so like the original zombies.
Yes. Voodoo zombies.
Yeah.
So only these are really, really white people.
I see.
So that's why people are like, "Oh no, it's not like voodoo at all." Wait. There are 2 endings, not counting the false flag ending.
Mm-hmm.
So the first ending is you don't do your job. You just walk away and...
Yeah, spoilers.
And, by the way, spoilers, fuck you. If you're going to finish this game, well, you're a sucker because you gave them too much money.
You paid Ubisoft again for the same game.
Do what I do and buy everything from Ubisoft on tremendous sales. Pay $5 a game. That's how you beat Ubisoft. So
I don't consider installing Uplay as a win, though.
You fail to do your job. You get mind controlled and you drive away.
Mhm.
And the you do your job ending is even more bizarre, as you arrest him and you start walking away, and I guess the place starts getting nuked by someone.
Interesting.
Now, there are 3 reasons why this doesn't make sense. 1, how would Seed get these kinds of explosives? He can't. Number 2, someone mentioned that in-game North Korea is threatening to attack. Now, the reason why that's impossible is with their current technology, they can barely hit California.
Mm-hmm. If they even have this technology, because
if they even had the technology in the time.
Yeah, a lot of that comes out of communist countries. You have to realize that it's PR bullshit.
A lot of it's
know
PR
how
bullshit.
to lie. Yeah.
What probably happened is they borrowed a missile from China and fired that.
Yeah. I would believe that.
So there is no logic there. The third is, if nuclear devices were planted there, why was there no detection? Why you can't just find weapons grade uranium? You can't just create weapons grade uranium. You need a factory for that kind of shit.
Yeah, in order to create uranium that is viable in use for a nuclear weapon, you require hundreds of thousands of centrifuges that spin like 600 RPMs.
Yeah.
And you get uranium from one to the other, and at each step it gets more and more enriched, and then you circle it back around again and again and again until you have the heavy form of uranium that is required.
Yeah.
Because I believe that it's like 0.05% of all uranium is weapons grade.
Yes.
Then you get. Then you need to figure out how to make it explode, because you can't just bang it together and have a nuclear explosions.
Why not?
You need a serious industry in order to make a single atomic weapon.
Absolutely. So there's no way that these Montana rednecks were capable of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So who put the bombs there? They don't tell you.
Magic. It's because plot demands it. That's basically the reason why.
Oh, and then he survives a car crash. Seed does.
Well, at least he didn't secured himself in a lead line fridge, right?
Oh God.
After the explosion.
It belongs in a museum.
Yes.
So yeah, Far Cry 5. You were fooled. So Warhammer 40,000 Gladius, Relics of War, has a very long title. It's killed off all the diplomats, Rock, Paper, Scissors says, as it's a 4X game with no diplomacy.
All war, all the time.
In the 41st millennium, there is only war.
Yep. This is the reason why it's called the Warhammer.
Like, we want diplomacy in our grimdark strategy game. No, fuck you. This is fucking Warhammer. There is only war.
Yes, if you are Imperium of Man, you do not make deals with Xenos. You do not talk with them. All you do with Xenos is you kill them. Or get killed by them.
Yeah.
Maybe if you were playing the, god damn it, what are they called? There are orcs, there are Eldars. I believe Eldars might make some political alliances. They sometimes did, but other than Eldar, I don't really can put my finger on who else could.
But there are only 4 factions in this game, which is unfortunately very typical of these Warhammer games now, is they only add a couple factions. And this is for a couple reasons. There are a lot of factions in Warhammer. The other is just they license. I think there's always been confusion here. Some people, the version some people say is that they have to license out every faction.
Ah, I see.
That's always been the theory. However,
also getting all the factions is also very demanding because you have to program all that shit in.
Yeah.
So, in order to make the thing smaller, you focus on the core factions, which is the Imperium of Man, the Eldar, the Orc, and maybe the Tyranid.
Nope. They're the Astra Militarum and the Space Marines are 2 different factions in this game.
Well, yeah, but
as they are in the tabletop game.
Yes.
No Tyranids, no Eldar. The Orcs are here, as they always are, and the Necrons, which I think is a pretty strong choice. That's a very bold move. There need to be more games with the Necrons in it.
Yeah, Necrons are cool. They just wake up, all they want to do is to kill everything.
So the weird thing is, because there are no communications of any kind, the Astra Militarum and the Space Marines are at war. Which, of course, isn't unheard of, but it's strange that there
should be at least some kind of provocation, right?
There's no... I mean, maybe it's explained, but we'll see. So instead of building cities, you're building giant fortifications. You're building large armies because there's no communication. Well, no diplomacy, so fuck everyone else's borders. Not really territory control. You have your bases, but that's your territory.
Yeah.
It looks pretty rigid.
Well, I'm sure they have their reasons. The important thing is the game fun to play?
It looks like you get a lot of units, and that's what I always want in a strategy game, and it bothers me when they don't give me a lot of units. Like what pissed me off about Civilization 6 is they have all these systems for bundling up your units, but you never really get at a point. Even if you crank everything up, you never really get to a point where you're producing that many units.
Yeah, the only way to do so is what? With mods? With hacks?
Well, with mods and by cranking up like resources to max and setting it to like fastest mode, stuff like that.
Yay.
So on to our answer that nobody wanted. The player should only describe their actions. A common DMing mistake by Atraxic89. I saw this comment here, and I see ones like it all the time. Even I have said this, but recently I have realized it's flawed. Like most things in D&D, one black and white rule cannot govern any aspect of the game. There are always shades of gray. In this case, it seems clear. The player says what they want to do, and the DM should tell them what to roll for, if anything at all. I think this was folly. While it is absolutely clear, up to the DM, what skills govern an action, it is not fair to the players to make this decision unilaterally. Here's an example. A player has high perception and wants to look for tracks. No one could doubt that spotting tracks is about using your senses, and the player expects to be making a perception check. As anyone IRL would, he plays to his strengths. But the DM remembers that tracking is also covered by the survival skill in 5e and requires a survival check instead. In my opinion, this is an issue. All the players should be the one deciding what to roll. It is unfair and disempowering to the player to make bad rolls when there's a fair chance of skill overlap. Okay, there's a mixture of confusion and correctness here. So, he's confusing a few things. Now, I think he's right in that the rule that a couple GMs have where only players are allowed, or players only roll, they don't actually get to decide what they're rolling for. There's D&D is the only game where you can really get away with that. In most other games, you actually have to say, like, hey, I want to use this skill in this way, I'm rolling for it. So, in D&D, some DMs have this opinion that the players aren't allowed to say what they're rolling for. Like, there was one game I was in where I was rolling for stuff, going, hey, I want to do this. And they're like, don't roll unless we ask you to. I'm like, but...
Wait, what?
But, I'm rolling for a skill I want to use.
I'm using a skill, therefore I roll.
That's how the game works.
Yeah.
And
it makes sense.
And yeah, players are allowed to pick things. Now, here's what he is confusing. He is confusing that with using skills for what they're not for. So, perception is for locating people that are hidden, or locating things. Now, if he had said investigation, well, that's more of an overlap.
Looking for something you don't know, but you don't know what, right?
Yeah. Where survival covers tracking. So if the player was going to say, hey, I want to roll perception for this, you would have to go, hey, that's actually survival. You'd have to roll survival.
Yeah.
But that's not my highest skill. Well, you're not good at survival.
If you want to track, you use survival. If you want to find something that you know what it is, then you look for perception. If you look for something and you don't know what it is, then it's investigation.
Yeah. So he's wrong about that. The rules of the game take a forefront there, and the DM, of course, is law.
The reason is because you need to use the right skill for the job. You have tools, and because if we didn't do that, right? If we were for some reason saying, "Oh, just use the skill that you have highest bonus to," then what's the point of having multiple skills in the first place?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, what's the point in getting a class? You can be just a hero and there.
This is why I fundamentally don't like multiclassing, because it's the player's attempt to be an RPG protagonist that does everything.
Yeah.
And that's not quite the point. We're not trying to do that here.
When it comes to multiclassing, however, I do have a certain thing that I would like to say, because when it comes to multiclassing, if your system has this class, each class has only 15 levels, and you can get 100 or 200 levels, then you have to multiclass, right? And but the point of it is that you multiclass in such a way that you create an archetypical sorcerer or at the end of it, right? Because you need some prerequisite classes like magician, journeyman, and
well, that's how it worked in 3.5.
Yeah. That is good. That this is something that I like, right? But if you create, and you should be punished for example, making a mage that is also a warrior, right? There needs to be some punishment there, because there should not be an overlap of prerequisites that requires both of these.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if I'm making any sense.
It does, but we're straying from the point here, which is a mixture of right and wrong. I agree with him that DMs need to coax their players into being more proactive. That we're nerds. We're shy. We need to be ushered forward.
Yep.
So I agree with that. What I don't agree with it is always using the skill with the highest bonus. That doesn't make any sense. Because he's framing it as if it's common sense that we should never have to make a bad roll. I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense to me. That's not common sense.
In real life, you fail. You fail very often, and you should never be sure that you're going to succeed in D&D as well, because if you know you succeed, then there is no tension. There is no I hope I do this, because then an awesome thing will happen. But I fail, and worse than that, I roll a 1, and suddenly an epic thing happens that is very, very bad for me, and there's tension.
Yes.
That makes the game exciting and fun.
But yeah, importantly, the player and the DM just kind of need to be on the same page. That's definitely for sure. So that's our show. Thank you very much.
Yep. Well, thank you all for coming.
Yes.